Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios. And as you can see, David is still in Argentina having fun and on vacation. He will be back next Monday, God willing. Welcome to all of you. Most of you know the drill. This is a space where we answer your questions. We make it practical. We make it as tactical as we can so that you can walk away with the answers you need to build your consulting firm, to make your experience as a firm leader more delightful, and to keep moving forward. Having said that, as you have questions and as you come in, post them in the comments. It takes a minute for me to see them. Good afternoon, Graham. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. It takes a few minutes for us to see them. The more you can do that, we'll take them as we go along. And having said that, Deidre, can you please show us the first question we have for today? Okay, this is a question from Alvaro. Alvaro, I think you submitted this question during our last LinkedIn Live, and we didn't have a chance to get to it. So here it is. You asked, what is your recommendation to converting your LinkedIn post into useful content for prospects interested in your consulting practice? All right, so assuming your LinkedIn posts reflect your knowledge with your own original content, or that you are adding insights to content published by others, there's a few things you can do. First one is, if LinkedIn is your medium, meaning where you post the most, where you're the most in contact with your tribe, make sure your contact information brings people back to LinkedIn. Much like you would do if you publish your own articles on your own site. Also consider at what point does your content reflect a framework or a methodology that you leverage in your approach to clients. Bring it together as you speak with your prospects. And also, at what point does the content that you're publishing on LinkedIn reflect a case study or a best-in-class example that you can also bring to your conversation with your prospects? You can amplify the content that you read by providing your own analysis, your own layer or point of view on top of it. All of that will help your prospects understand how do you think and what it's like to be working with you. How do you approach your work and how do you see the world, right? So that's kind of your main framework or your core model, if you will. That's what we call it. All right, Alvaro, if you need any more detail on that, or you like to kind of double click on any of these aspects, right back. All right, I know you're posting your questions for us this morning on the comments, so I'm going to go through as many of them as I can in the order that I see them. So Graham, you said when someone replies to an outreach email, how long should one wait before one replies? Ooh, okay. So you send an email out, you receive a response. The sooner the better, right? So if you can see it right away and you can get to it right away, be as responsive as you can. In our world, responsiveness is very important, as you well know, and we like to keep our standards really tight. If you're saying, okay, did somebody not reply, then that's a whole other situation. But when somebody reply, as soon as you can get to it. Say they ask you a question back and you can't respond right away, but you saw their email. And note back saying, got it, we'll get on it as soon as I have a chance, perhaps later today. It's sufficient to keep that connection and that conversation going. Graham, let me know if that answered your question. All right. Hello, Ben. Okay, better way to reply immediately to wait a while. Reply immediately all the time. Hello, Eric. You asked, you're onboarding a new, very large for you publicly traded client. What are some projects, kickoff, checklist items that I shouldn't sure we discussed? We're still in the exploration phase with the goal of getting to an implementation plan. So things like stakeholder involvement, area communication challenge, pacing, billing invoices, person identified and introduced. All right, Thank you, Eric, for your question. And you highlighted one very important element of the overall chain of client experience, which is the onboarding phase. Ideally, you have a few kind of concurrent checklists that you go through when you're onboarding a new client. You have an internal checklist for you and for your growing team where you're like, are we doing all of the things internally we're doing to set up the client? As you know, the information you would need to be successful in both deploying and running your project, it's useful that you create your own custom checklist. The thing you mentioned, who is going to be involved, in what capacity, what can you actually expect of them? To the more trivial, how do you contact them? What is the preference for your client team in terms of communication, for urgent things, for non-urgent things? What is their preference in terms of scheduling? What's kind of the command chain, right, at your client team? That's also important to know. Are you exchanging information? What's their preference on how to do that? What systems do they leverage to exchange information? Do they expect you to share your products as you work along? How's that dynamic going to go? Who should information go to? And hopefully in which format? All of those elements are part of a block that you can call either parameters or logistics or something like that. They don't need to take, Eric, a lot of time of your personal one-to-one interaction with team members. If you know what questions you can ask, you can create a checklist and you can even share it, right? Or create a survey form, some sort of worksheet that your client can fill out and take that first pass. And then I would encourage you to go back and sit with the folks and say, okay, let's confirm. You've shared, A through Z. Are we on the same page? This is how we're going to address that in this engagement. This is how it's going to work. One other important element or parallel checklist I would have is, what does your kickoff look like? So in that first interaction where you're launching your engagement, what do you need from your client? What sets you up for success? And here I'm not talking anymore about logistics or administration. I'm thinking more about, do you know what the expectations of each team member are? Are you aligned on the goals of the project? Are there important milestones external to your project that may impact your success? And how do they work in terms of calendars? If you need to make changes or pivot in some aspects, what's the process in which they normally succeed at doing that? So elements like that are very important to setting up a team for success and will perhaps vary from client to client or project to project, are also important to keep in mind as you launch new engagements. All right, hopefully that helps you work through your onboarding phase. Think about your client experience. What does onboarding look like from the perspective of your client? And we have some prompts. If you write to me, Eric, write me an email or write me through LinkedIn. I'll send you some prompts for client onboarding. All right. I'm going through your questions, so give me a second. Beautiful. Okay. Mike, you say, perfect. The idea of, okay, so you went to our Fertile Markets, Finding Fertile Markets webinar, which is what you're referenced here, an idea that we suggested about doing a survey of potential clients, asking them what they've hired outside advisors for, how did it go? Do we have suggested language on how to best ask for permission to do this survey, especially with people you identified and want to reach out cold? Is it best to send a connection request first, build out a conversation, then ask to do the survey, or include the ask for a survey in the initial connection request? All right, so ultimately, it all has to do with your goals. In this case, your request is not really right side up, meaning it's not about them, It's about information you want and you're gathering for your firm. So in thinking about this, there's two approaches. The more transparent you can be, given that you are going to be what we call upside down and asking for a favor, is be transparent. You are asking for a favor. Now, whether you connect first and ask for a favor second, it depends a lot on your side. For us, connecting with somebody is generally about wanting to connect with them. So in our case, the most logical sequence, given what our desired goals or outcomes are would be connect first, and then ask them, are you open to supporting me in this research project I'm doing? And know very well that folks may say, yeah, not interested at this point, and that would be okay. So whereas if your goal is simply to do the research, then state that in your connection message. Look, I'm reaching out to you. Your profile is really interesting or caught my eye. I am midway through this research effort. It will take this long from you. Are you open to connecting and then going through research? So might think about it in terms of what are your ultimate objectives in terms of the relationship. If you want your connection to survive or have a long life beyond your research, then focus on connecting first and then ask them if they are open to support you in the research. All right, drop me a note if that is helpful or if you need anything else. Frank, you're sharing that you do contract engineering, scientific research. Most clients want your full attention. You get paid well, but you have pauses in your work. What and how can you work for several clients at a time or to keep a steady stream of clients? All right. Thank you, Frank, for your question. This is all about building your pipeline. So step number one is think, okay, what is the delivery model where you can continue to deliver at high quality for clients? And it's very feasible in all fields, including engineering and scientific research, that you can have multiple clients running in parallel. If not at the same phase of the engagement, what would need to happen in terms of, the initial phase of research and post the research or reporting phases, which I imagine you have as well? What would need to happen in terms of timing so that you can have more than one project running at the time? Think also from the client experience first, what needs to happen? What do clients expect from you in terms of availability, in terms of responsiveness, and in terms of a pace of an engagement? Put aside any conceived notions that clients may have about your dedication to the project, because that's ultimately not relevant or, a 10th in line beyond delivering the outcomes they're expecting for, and change the conversation from one based on how much time is Frank available for us to when are we going to get our outputs, our deliverables, and what kind of responsiveness are we going to get from Frank? If you can do that, you can sustain multiple clients at once. The other question for you internally is, what kind of support do you need to have concurrent clients? Figure out, do you need back of the curtains assistance? Do you need folks in your support team? Do you actually need team members who can do part of the research and analysis? This will help you understand, okay, if you're going to scale, then what is required in terms of an investment and how much of that investment is project to project versus how much of that investment will run concurrently with your firm. All right, I just looked at the clock. We're about 14 minutes and change in. So we'll tackle the rest of your very valuable questions during next week's live session or via email if you need answers sooner. In the meantime, if you want to meet with us next Monday, and we hope you join us again, use the link that Deidre is just showing up on your screen, davidafields.com/Monday Live. Create a recurring event in your calendar. in your time zone, it will bring you to wherever LinkedIn takes us that week. It will bring you to the right spot. We will be able to see you. A second request from you is that you connect with us. And here are both of our handles on LinkedIn. A third request is that if you haven't already, subscribe to David's articles. They're packed with content, and the comments are also very valuable and insightful from other consultants like yourselves. And my last request for today is that you send us your questions. info@davidafields.com or leverage LinkedIn like we've done today. We love it when we can read your questions and be able to answer them in the moment. Overall, thank you for joining us. And also think always about your client. Every question we answer today has an element of putting our clients ahead of ourselves. If you do that in consulting, you are adding value to your client, and that's what gets success, not only for them, but also for you. So put your clients first and serve them well. See you next week.